So what's more likely, in your opinion, in year one for North Carolina, a suffocating defense or a ball control offense?
I go with the suffocating defense. I think that he's going to put out a defense and schemes that a lot of college coaches just aren't familiar with. I really do. I think he has a wealth of knowledge, and as long as he has, that Devin McCourty or a guy like a Teddy Bruschi, those guys that can communicate and get people lined up, and he feels comfortable with that, you're going to see some things that you've probably never seen before when it comes to defensive scheme.
So when they're preparing for a game, how do you anticipate Belichick preparing the team? Is it going to be more focused on UNC, or is it going to be focused more on the opponent? And how do you kind of, again, you touched on it a little bit, but how do you prepare a college kid for that? Or is it just meeting them where they're at?
I mean, it would vary, from us from week to week. Sometimes he'd come in and say, look, it's not about the opponent this week. It's about us. It's about how we execute. It literally, if we do, and he had a really uncanny way of really declaring, like, hey, these are the 3 key things for victory this week. And they would vary from week to week. Sometimes they'd be the same. Sometimes they'd be, I remember one time we were playing, I think, Devin Hester, and he's like, one of the keys to the game is do not let Devin Hester touch the ball. If we're punting to him, it goes out of bounds. If we're kicking it, it goes out of the end zone. Usually enough, if we met those 3 keys, or if we got 2 out of the 3, we'd win. If we only got 1 of the 3, we'd lose. So he can identify those things, and I think that's the biggest thing is, getting these 18 to 22-year-old kids to really understand that and then go out and execute it.
So one more question, halfway backtracking a little bit, but you played for a number of great teams, number of great coaches. I looked at some of them. You mentioned Bill O'Brien already, Josh McDaniels, Kyle Shanahan, Wisenhunt, Coach Kyle at Ignatius.
Yeah.
What makes Belichick kind of stand out in terms of the preparation? Aside from detail, is there anything else that kind of really stands out?
Yeah, I think there was just, you didn't want to screw up. I mean, that was, quite honestly, that was one of the motivating factors for all of us. And you wanted to have a culture where you were accountable, not only for yourself, but for your teammates, to your teammates. And so I think that was the one thing with Bill is you knew no stone was ever going to be left unturned. You knew that was the one thing that I would say playing for him is I never went into a game feeling like we weren't prepared. Now, as crazy as that sounds, there's other teams that I played for, other coaches that I played for, and maybe because and it was a blessing and a curse because it was how I learned things in the NFL. And then you went somewhere else and you're like, whoa, this is it. This is all we have for going into. You get done with practice on Friday, and you'd be like, we're just hoping at this point. And I think I never went into a game in New England except for maybe that last year thinking we're not going to win. And a lot of that had to do with the quarterback too. Obviously with Tom Brady, you were like, if Tom's playing and Bill's coaching, like, we should win every single game.
Let's stay there for a little bit, talking about quarterback play and Tom Brady. I'm not going to ask you to split hairs between, whether it's a Brady success or Belichick success or anything like that. But I am curious, does Belichick need great quarterback play to win in college, or do you think he can do it with a guy that's just average or above average?
Well, I think, look, whether it's college, NFL, high school, there's never going to be another Tom Brady. That's just, he's so unique. And that was the thing, like you talk about, I said earlier, I hit the jackpot. It was a match made in heaven. I mean, it was a coach who demanded so much from his quarterback and a guy who demanded even more from himself and was able to take hard coaching for all those years. And so it really was a perfect pairing for a long time. And so I think, look, you can't go in if you're Bill and say, I'm going to find, look, first of all, if you find him, he's only going to be there for 2 or 3 years. Right. So
Tops.
I think now you have to really shift your mentality and say, I need a quarterback who's going to protect the football. I need a quarterback who's great at situational awareness, situational plays, who's a great leader, who's going to eventually be the coach on the field. And so I think it's more likely that you find someone who's competent, takes care of the football and understands what Bill's looking for, and that may not be a guy who's, up for the Heisman Trophy at the end of the year. I don't think that that's what you're going to see. I think it's more about making sure that quarterback goes out and executes exactly what Bill and the offensive staff are looking for.
One more, kind of thinking about how he works with quarterbacks and how quarterbacks deploy what it is he wants to do. North Carolina has had some situational defensive problems in the last few years. I know that when our listeners and our subscribers hear you talk about him taking away a lot of the dumb, right? Like, that's not your words, that's my words, but that's what I'm hearing you say. How long does it take to get the dumb out of a program, right? North Carolina turned over with 70 new guys. That's part of it. But how long do you think it will take him to get these guys to stop making, to stop losing games, right? To stop making bad penalties, to stop having unforced errors, stop turning the ball over when they don't need to? How long does something like that take to deploy?
I mean, look, I wasn't here when he first came to New England, but it seemed like it happened pretty quickly, right? In his second year, they're winning a Super Bowl. And I think that's the biggest thing, is how quickly can you establish that culture, the accountability? I mean, trust me, you don't want to be the person on the lowlights. So how long does it take those kids to realize that if I don't do what I'm being coached to do, if I don't go out and execute it, I'm going to be on the lowlights? There's consequences, right? I think that's the biggest thing, not just in football, but in life. If you go through life and there's never any consequences, how do you ever get any better? And so that was the one thing I always appreciated from Bill, was you knew you better come into that building every day and give everything you have and do the best you can, because if you don't, you're going to get called out on it. And so how quickly can those kids adapt to that type of culture and lifestyle, and how quickly can you weed out the ones that can't do it?
So you've had a unique situation. You had overlap with Steve Belichick, correct?
Yeah, Steve.
So he's our defensive coordinator now. What was it? What is he like? How is he similar to Belichick? And what can we kind of expect from him?
Totally different. I mean, Steve has some young, youthful, exciting energy. We had some good times together, but I think it's a good pairing for those two to be together, because Steve's, lived it for so long. So he knows exactly what his dad's thinking at any given moment. And I think it's also probably worth noting, Steve has a year now, having gone and coached in the college level. And also, I think it helps with the relatability, right? I mean, Bill is not getting any younger, but Steve is young. And so he understands these kids. He understands this generation, and he's always done a good job.